Hello, my fellow story lovers. Welcome back to Story Molder. I have a question for you. Have you ever heard a story that was so compelling that you just had to tell it? This is that kind of story for me. Hear it for yourself. It is entitled The Son. A wealthy man and his son loved to collect rare inspirational art. They had collected everything from Picasso to Raphael. Many times they sat around their living room and talked about their great art collection. One day, the son went to fight in the Vietnam War. He was very courageous. Unfortunately, he died in battle while rescuing a soldier. The father was notified, and of course he was devastated. He grieved deeply for his only son. About a month later, there was a knock at the door. He opened the door and saw a young man standing there with a large package in his hands. The young man spoke up and said, "Sir, you don't know me, but I am the soldier who your son sacrificed his life to save. He saved me and many others that day. He was carrying me to safety when a bullet struck him, and he died immediately. He always talked about you and your love for inspirational art." Suddenly, the young man handed the package to the father. "Sir, I want you to have this painting. It is not much, and if you ask me, I'm not really a good artist. But I think your son would have wanted you to have this portrait of him." The father took and opened the package. First, he just stared at the painting in awe. He was speechless. He could not believe the way the soldier had captured his son's personality. He was so drawn to the eyes in the portrait. Then he began to sob uncontrollably. Through his tears, he said, Thank you so much. This means the world to me." He wiped his face with his shirt sleeves and said, trembling, I want to pay you for this priceless portrait of my son." "Oh, no, sir. Please take it as a gift. I could never repay what your son did for me. It's a gift. This is the least that I could do to honor him." The father took the portrait and proudly hung it over his mantle. It became the most valuable painting in his possession. Every time visitors came to his house, the first thing he would do was to eagerly take them directly to see that portrait of his son. The other great works of art were shown after that. The father died a few months later. There was to be a great big auction of his paintings. Many attended. They were so excited about the opportunity to see and perhaps purchase some of the great paintings to add to their collection. The painting of the son sat noticeably in the center of the platform. The auctioneer pounded his gavel. Pointing at the portrait of the son, he said, "We will start the bidding with this portrait. Who will bid for this painting?" Puzzled, the audience looked at each other and there was complete silence. Then a voice in the back of the room shouted, "We want to see the famous paintings. Skip this one." But the auctioneer ignored the shouts and continued, "Will someone bid for this painting? Who will start the bidding? $100? $200? Another voice interrupted and shouted angrily, "We didn't come to see this painting. We came to see the Van Goghs, the Rembrandts. Get on with the real bids." But still, the auctioneer continued. The son, he shouted. "Who will take the son?" Finally, a voice came from the very back of the room. It was a longtime gardener of the father and his son. "I'll give $10 for the painting." Being a poor man, it was all he could afford. "We have $10. Who will bid 20? Won't someone bid 20? Give it to him for 10. We want to see the masters. $10 is the bid. $10 is the bid. Won't someone bid 20? Pleaded the auctioneer. The crowd was becoming pretty angry. They did not want the painting of the sun. They wanted the more worthy investments for their collection. Hesitantly, the auctioneer pounded the gavel. "Going once, going twice, sold for $10 to the man in the back." A man sitting in the front row shouted, "Now, let's get on with the collection that we came to see." With his head lowered, the auctioneer softly laid down his gavel. "I'm sorry. The auction is over. When I was called to conduct this auction, I was told about a secret stipulation in the will that stated only the painting of the sun would be auctioned, and the person who bought that painting would inherit the entire estate, including the inspirational paintings. I was not allowed to reveal that stipulation until now. So the man who took the sun gets everything." You know, God sacrificed his son 2,000 years ago to die on a cruel cross for us. And much like the auctioneer's message, his message today is the son, who will take the sun. In this story, the son and the artist were both compassionate and giving people who obviously stood for something stronger. Every man is a son and or a father in some capacity that may have pulled strength and character from their father. This Father's Day, take some time for self-reflection and ask yourself, can I be more helpful to others outside of my immediate household? Perhaps charge yourself to make sacrifices, to go beyond and increase your sphere of influence outside of your home. If you are able to sacrifice beyond that which is your seed, your immediate influence, perhaps it will have a ripple effect, making the world a better place. I quote a poem by the late great poet Langston Hughes. One day he wrote a poem about a mother's advice to her son. It could be any father's advice because the message would be the same. Mother to Son by Langston Hughes. Well, son, I tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time I's been a-climbing on, and reaching landings, and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps 'cause you finds it's kinda hard. Don't you fall now at 4. I's still going, honey. I's still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair. Give away yourself as the ultimate sacrifice. No reserve, no retreat, no regrets. The Sun. Thanks for dropping by and spending time listening to my story. Come back as often as you like. I'll be happy to have you. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Goodbye for now.